You're always looking for your big break, and when it comes, you've got to jump on it. Mabel thinks she has a big break in the investigation, so she jumps on it and steals the memory card. Tobert thinks he has a big break in his documentarian career, so he jumps on it and sneaks into Ben's penthouse. Loretta gets a big break finally after all these years. She gets cast as a series regular on a TV show. And in maybe the most unbelievable moment on this show so far, Loretta doesn't jump on her big break. Instead, she stays with her contract on Death Rattle. Is that suspicious or is that charming? Ben Glenroy already had his big break, but he may have broken off a big bit of a Smackery's cookie, and it may have been a bit more than he could chew. Let's solve Only Murders in the Building. Season 3, Episode 3, Grab Your Hankies. Oliver races to bring new life to his show as Mabel's investigation into the actual murder collides with a surprising ally. Charles bonds with the cast, and Loretta proves her voice is invaluable. We'll be breaking down each episode for clues, suspects, and red herrings on the hunt to learn who killed Ben Glenroy. Spoilers for the first 2 seasons and Season 3 through Episode 3 of Only Murders in the Building. If you haven't seen all 22 episodes, pause this video. Practice your imitation of Oliver. Mom wanted us to practice. She was a smoker. Then continue on. Guys, we're only 3 episodes into Season 3, but this one's really fun. This may be the best cluing the show has ever done in a murder mystery. What do you think? Are you enjoying Season 3? Use the timestamps below to jump to the topic or suspect you want to hear and skip past the stuff you don't want to hear. Let's begin with the double C, those credit clues. It may not be foggy, cold Nova Scotia, but there's a Death Rattle-inspired lighthouse at the top of the Arconia. Next week, in addition to our coverage of Only Murders in the Building and the After Party, we're going to roll out coverage of Star Wars Ahsoka as an after-show podcast. You'll find it on YouTube with all our videos, but if you listen to the audio podcast, you'll need to subscribe to the Parsec Passion podcast feed to get that Star Wars goodness. For everybody on YouTube, smash that like button if you're glad Ben Glenroy is dead, or smash the like button if you're sad that he's dead. Subtle hint, we need you to hit those likes, subscribe, and we want to hear your comments. For everybody on social media, you can find us at Double PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. That's the word double, single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at Double PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, Facebook.com/Double PHQ. We got email feedback this week, hello@doublepmedia.com. We love to hear from you. Before we run down the suspects, let's look at what Episode 3 taught us about the victim, actor Ben Glenroy. This week, all the online chatter has been about Ben's tattoos, specifically the tattoos on his left hand on the fingers. This first image is from Mabel's picture of dead Ben Glenroy in the elevator shaft. That's what his left hand looks like in the elevator shaft. His left hand is outstretched and the letters GC, possibly Girl Cop, appear tattooed on his fingers. Now let's compare that to a different shot of Ben's left hand, this time from the table read. Zoom in. Again, it appears to be the letters G, then C on Ben's left hand. Now, though, let's look at a shot of Ben's left hand from the rehearsal he did with Oliver in his dressing room. This time, the letters on Ben's left hand appear to read CG. Instead of GC, suddenly it reads CG. Does Ben have a twin? And we'll talk about this more in our last bit of the video in the spoiler section. Okay, now let's focus on Episode 3. The cops say Ben's blood was clean. Was that because they looked at the twins' blood sample? Or was that because Ben wasn't poisoned and he was faking it? Or because the poison left his body quickly? Now, in the foyer to his penthouse at the Arconia, he has a giant CoBro statue. Note in the penthouse there's only one elevator that goes all the way up to the penthouse. Was that the elevator that was broken and down? How would Ben get up there if that one was broken? What other clues are hidden in Ben's penthouse? You can see that Ben's wallpaper matches the pattern of The Shining. Look at the carpet on The Shining, and The Shining was known for twins. On the night he died, someone was in his dressing room. Who was it? Now this is wonderful cluing. I think most of us have already figured it out. I did, and I went online and I saw a lot of people had already figured it out. But if you haven't figured out who Ben was talking to in his dressing room on opening night, I'm going to read what Ben said, and I'm going to try to emphasize the key clues in this line. You're not supposed to be here. Go. You're not going to go, are you? Acting all sweet. We both know you're bad. I want you. I want you so bad, but you're going to ruin my career, and I'm going to like it. Okay, sweet. You're going to ruin my career. Think back to episode 1. What's sweet and going to ruin his career? Why didn't the person in his dressing room respond? Ben was talking to cookies, possibly Schmackery's cookies. Eating cookies and getting overweight would ruin his CoBro career. Now, was Ben actually poisoned? If so, whoever put those cookies in his dressing room poisoned him. Now let's look at the suspects. Loretta Durkin. Loretta's part in Death Rattle is as the nanny. Now, she isn't available when Oliver first tries to pull together the cast to get them to rehearse the new songs. Was she auditioning for that TV show? If she met Dickie at that table read only 4 months ago, their relationship has really blossomed. Now Dickie's acting as Loretta's manager, and he got her this audition. Loretta claims she was in the workshop version of Little Shop of Horrors, implying she's been in New York trying for a very long time. And Little Shop of Horrors, obviously an Easter egg for Steve Martin. Loretta is so charming with Oliver. Is she seducing him for real or as an act? Now, Loretta did get that part in the TV show, which requires her to go to Los Angeles and play the mom with that great limp. Again, I don't think it's very believable that Loretta wouldn't go, but she's gonna stay. Suspicious or wonderful? Producer Donna. Is Cliff really Donna's son? I mean, this incest is getting worse than on Game of Thrones. Donna also refers to theater fans and musical fans as addict. You gotta give those addicts what they want. Cliff, Donna's son. Now, Cliff thinks that Death Rattle Dazzle is a good idea. He may not be the killer, but he's not too bright. He loved Death Rattle Dazzle even before the Nanny Lullaby song. Now he's gonna keep the show going. Dickie, Ben's brother/assistant. Again, Dickie offered to be Loretta's manager. Dickie comes up to the penthouse with a backpack. Did he mean to take things? Dickie is very upset. Dickie answers his cell phone with a "Go for Ben," go for Dickie. Now that could be a completely honest way to answer the phone if you're Ben's manager. Or it could imply something darker like the twin theory. Tobert is scamming his way into Ben's penthouse, but he does have a key to the penthouse. Yes, he's making a documentary about Ben's life, but do subjects just give away keys to their penthouse to the camera guy? Tobert has listened to the Only Murders in the Building podcast, but he pretends not to know Mabel's name. He claims to have been in Botswana the previous year in his famous drowning baby elephant story. Do you guys believe him? How did somebody working on a nature documentary in Botswana end up in New York City making a documentary about a crude actor, Ben Glenroy? Tobert claims Dickie ended his contract before opening night. Why? Tobert says he was with Ben on opening night, but Ben pushed him out of the dressing room. Let's talk about a couple meta things. In this one shot, the camera frames Tobert with devil horns. Not good. Also going meta, why would the writers of Only Murders in the Building give Tobert such an odd first name? Was it to make the character stand out? Or do maybe the writers know somebody in real life named Tobert and they wanted to give that person a little Easter egg shout out? Or are the writers trying to set something up? Could the character Tobert have a twin and maybe their parents named them Robert and Tobert? Kimber got the voiceover role in episode 3. Her part in the play Death Rattle is the godmother. The godmother is a parental figure who's not an actual parent. Kimber claims to have been very numb, feeling numb since Ben died, and later says she lost her hanky, or possibly given it away. This feels like a classic fake out, but what do you think? Could Kimber be guilty? Ty, his character in Death Rattle, is the father, once again a parental figure. Bobo, his role in Death Rattle is as the boatman. Boy, that feels like a small part. Bobo, nobody suspects you yet. Howard Morris. Howard is pushing his relative Moses Morris, who runs sponsorships for State Farm, to cut out Donna and Cliff. What is his game? Why would he want Donna and Cliff gone? Now, in the closing credits, you'll note that State Farm paid for promotional consideration in the show. State Farm paid to be shouted out on the show. So here's another meta question. If you're State Farm Insurance and you're sponsoring Only Murders in the Building, would you want the character who's pushing your product to be the cold-blooded killer? Does this mean Howard is innocent? Jonathan. Jonathan has a great motive. Now, after Ben's death, he's officially become the detective in Death Rattle. Now, I know what you're thinking. Shouldn't Donna and Cliff line up a big star to replace the loss of Big Star Ben? Well, you would think they would, but Jonathan's got the role. Oliver Putnam. Oliver has banned investigating Ben's death during his rehearsals. Bad move, Oliver. Now, when he and Loretta are talking about Little Shop of Horrors, it's positioned that Oliver is the Seymour who'd be willing to do anything for a girl, Audrey, or in this case, Loretta. We love Oliver, but he was really cold and a bit of a jerk when he refused to let Loretta leave for the great opportunity of being on that TV show. Charles Hayden Savage. Charles' role in the play is as the constable. Now, he may be a constable on stage, but in real life, he is doing a terrible job of getting those Death Rattle Hankies. We are 3 episodes into Season 3, and we still have no idea who Charles was warning Ben to stay away from. Nor has Charles mentioned this to Mabel. Why not? Mabel Mora. Mabel is a bit too perfect in her Oliver impersonation. Mabel also knows her poisons very well, easily suggesting a poison that would be out of the bloodstream quickly. In our last podcast on episode 2, we talked about the producer's theory, as well as the Loretta Ant theory. This week, I gotta go to some feedback to get us into a new theory. AV Geek wrote, "My first thought was maybe Howard was the killer, since we know from season 2 he wanted to be on Broadway." Edited by Thunder also wrote, "I think it's Howard. Why else would the actor playing him be up to a series regular? For the motive, Howard wasn't cast in the play and Jonathan was Ben's understudy. I think Howard tried to poison Ben but failed, and then Jonathan was the one who finished him off." Well, that is a good point. We noted in our episode 1 podcast that Howard comes up to Oliver and says, "Oliver, this wasn't your fault. This was after Ben's first death, when he seemed to be poisoned." Why would Howard say that? Even Oliver notes, why would you say that? Of course it wasn't his fault. Did Howard poison Ben to get Jonathan that starring role on opening night? Did Jonathan poison Ben? I was so proud in season 2 when I matched Howard's handwriting when he was taking Arconia building notes to a note from season 1. And then Howard turned out not to be the killer in season 2. I'm a little Howard gun shy, but what do you guys think of this Howard theory? Now let's get to your feedback. Michael wrote, "I think they're setting the stage for this to be the final season of the show, with Mabel leaving the Arconia and Oliver having health issues. What do you guys think? Do you want this show to wrap? Or, if you've seen this season's trailer, you know Mabel ends up in a wedding dress. Will Mabel's wedding end up with a murder that'll set up season 4? Natalie wrote, "Where is Teddy Demas in all of this? If Oliver has a new love interest, will Teddy try to get between them to spite Oliver?" Mark wrote, "I know we're only a few episodes in, but taking the show out of the Arconia and putting it on Broadway is a huge risk, as it takes Mabel out of the season and sort of breaks up the trio. Too many characters in the theater." Belsky wrote, "I agree with that comment. I was gutted when they killed Bunny, but I understand why. They've got almost a completely new cast and setting, and it's taken me out of the trio Arconiac's situations." Kim brings up a great note. In season 1, Tim was poisoned, then shot. In season 2, Bunny was stabbed with a knife multiple times, and then stabbed with knitting needles. Now in season 3, Ben has been poisoned and thrown down the elevator shaft. When you're killed twice, there's no coming back. Fancy Girl said Loretta was probably a teen mom maybe, and the kid doesn't live with her because she needs to try to act and lives with somebody else, and that's why they think Loretta is their aunt. 671 Sun wrote, "Something is a bit off about Donna and Cliff." Lauren has a bunch of thoughts. Look at Ben's addiction to cookies and his obsession with the missing mangoes. Could Ben be diabetic, and that's why he's not allowed to have cookies but something more natural like mangoes instead of cookies when his sugar level is low? Lauren also points out Ben's finger tattoos. Are they C's? Is it a big bold number 6 or 9? Upon his death, it looks like he had been getting them removed. You can hardly see the tattoos on his left hand as he's dead in the elevator. That screenshot was meant to show his watch as well as his fingers. The theme of the murder does seem to lay heavily not just in show business, but in childhood. It starts out with Loretta's childhood, then Ben talks about how he was fired as a child. The play is about a child. Ben's claim to fame in his performance in Girl Cop, which is a show that Mabel has sentimental feelings for due to the timing of her father's passing when she was a child. Now remember, she also did watch The X-Files with her father, she told us in season 2. What do you guys think? Jenny sent us a bunch of theories. Her third theory is the one I'm interested in. She said, did a baby do it? Could it mirror the play Death Rattle? There are people with babies that we know of, such as Detective Williams and also Nina from the Arconiac. Now remember, in the play, there's this woman who falls to her death and a baby's there. We just saw Ben fall to his death. Wonderful points, Jenny. GH wrote, Lester's wife is somebody named Lorraine. Could Lorraine be Loretta's sister? Man, we are going there. I love it. What if Charles was actually trying to protect Ben? Stay away from her. Be smart. Charles didn't sound threatening or intimidating. He could have been looking out for Ben. Her might be a dangerous person, like Jan, for instance. Mike EZ wrote, I think Ben's first death was a PR stunt created by Ben to bring more attention to him and the play. And finally, The Art of Intuition wrote, I wonder if the first attempt was not trying to kill Ben but get him sick enough to close the play. Was anyone worried that the play would ruin his career? The only thing the play had going for it was a huge star in Ben. Now, The Art of Intuition, that is really tough on Charles. He was a series regular on TV for a long time. Come on. The Art of Intuition continues. Oliver is down and out, and he would cast whomever they told him. Now, remember in season 3, we found out Ben was already attached to the play when Oliver got hired. Every season, the killer has been a deranged woman. This season, a man? If it was the brother, I feel the fall was an accident. Ben said he was the sole supporter for himself, his brother, and his mother. Note, Ben never mentioned a father. Wonderful points, wonderful theories. Keep dropping them in the YouTube comments. Email us, tweet at us, threads at us, reply on Instagram. We want to hear from you. Okay, this is a spoiler. It is a light spoiler, but if you don't want to know anything that hasn't been revealed yet on the show, hop out now. We'll see you in the next video. So, okay, what's this spoiler about? As an audience, we don't know too much about what the play Death Rattle's plot is yet. We know a woman fell to her death. This woman might have a rattle stuck in her mouth, and we've heard that a baby was the only person in the room. Well, many early reviews of Season 3, such as this one from Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times, there's a line that reads, the play Death Rattle seems to center around infant triplets in Nova Scotia who are accused of murder. So, if earlier we're looking at tattoos on Ben's hands and wondering, how does this tattoo change? Does Ben have a twin? Is it too far to suddenly say, well, what if Ben has triplets? Perhaps one named Ben, one named Glen, and one named Roy. Now that doesn't leave any place for Dickie to fit in. But could Ben have triplets like in the play? Now why would a big movie star want to be in a play from a failed director? Well, maybe if it's about triplets and he himself is a triplet or a twin. Now, in reality, there's no way a huge star like Ben Glenroy could keep the fact that he had an identical twin or twins a secret from anybody. But in real life, there's no way Becky could return to Oklahoma with simply changing her hair color and putting on glasses and not be recognized by the dozens of police officers who were looking for her there. So, we can't rule anything out. Next week, we'll be back with episode 4, The White Room.